Hey guys, welcome back. I hope you are having an amazing day. Let's get right into the stories. The first one is a pro-revenge story. In the early 2020s, my buddies and I used to hang out at this small pool hall in the next town over. You could rent a table hourly or play per game. We'd knock a few balls around, catch whatever was on the sports channels, and BS about random stuff. No issues, no drama for the first couple of months we went there. Then this one dude shows up and snags the table we wanted. No big. We were chatting anyway. 20 minutes later, my friend lets him know it's our turn next game, and the jackass just brushes him off. Sure enough, we don't get to play after that game. I politely remind him we're up, and some chick pipes up that she's after us. The prick ignores both of us. More time passes, and the guy steps out, leaving the table. We seize the moment, put quarters in, but the rack is missing the 6-ball. The douche took it to the John with him. At this point, it's ridiculous, so we flag down the manager. He says it's nearly last call at 12:30 a.m., so he doesn't want to kick up a fuss by booting the guy. He grabs us a spare ball to play with. Bathroom dude returns, realizes we're onto his trick, and smirks. He strolls outside with a beer and the 6-ball for a smoke break. When he comes back in, he chucks the ball onto the table, messing up our game. Perfect timing for last call at the bar. One buddy suggests we follow his car and all call the cops to report a suspected drunk driver. 3 of us are down. Soon as he leaves, we use our smartphones to coordinate multiple calls to the highway patrol. License plate, make, model, color, mentioning he nearly hit someone, was weaving between lanes, driving erratic. We only had like 15 minutes before he'd be home, probably. The 4th guy tailed him while the rest of us ratted him out. Dude calls excited. A cop pulled between them with lights flashing to pull the jerk over. Sure enough, that week's police blotter had him arrested, but not for DUI, driving on a suspended license. The next one is an entitled people story. Buying my first home was a dream come true. After years of scrimping and saving, I finally had a little place to call my own. It wasn't anything fancy, just a small, one-story house with a tiny yard. But to me, it was perfect. I took pride in every little detail, from the flower beds I planted to the wind chimes on the porch. This was my sanctuary. That feeling of peace was shattered when the neighbors from hell moved in next door. It was a family of 5 crammed into a beat-up old RV that looked like it would fall apart any minute. They parked that eyesore smack in the middle of their weed-choked yard, with barely enough room to open the door. I tried to give them the benefit of the doubt at first. Maybe they were just going through hard times and this was temporary. Oh, how wrong I was. Not only did they turn the RV into a permanent fixture, but they also had zero regard for anyone else around them. Loud music blasted from their rattletrap home day and night. The parents smoked and drank constantly, tossing their beer cans wherever they pleased. Their children ran wild, trampling my flowers and breaking my wind chimes without a care. I politely asked them to keep the noise down after 10 p.m. so I could sleep. They laughed in my face. I requested that they supervise their kids and prevent them from invading my yard. They cursed me out for being a child hater. Clearly, civil discussion wasn't getting me anywhere, so I started calling the cops to report the noise disturbances and vandalism. That only escalated the tension between us. The family took my complaints as a declaration of war. They cranked up the music louder just to spite me. Their demon children destroyed my flower beds and smashed my remaining wind chimes to bits. I installed a short fence around my property, hoping it would deter them. No such luck. One night, I awoke to a horrible scraping sound coming from outside. I rushed to the window and couldn't believe my eyes. The drunk father was attempting to park the RV in my yard. Tires tore through my grass and crushed my fence as he recklessly maneuvered the oversized vehicle just inches from my porch. I ran out there in my pajamas, screaming at them to stop. He just laughed maniacally, cutting the wheels in every direction and grinding my lawn into muddy ruts beneath the RV tires. I called the police, but they were little help as usual. They asked the family to move the RV back onto their own property, but couldn't force them to repair the extensive damage. My yard was left ruined, tire tracks cutting deep gouges in the mud. My crushed fence lay in splintered pieces on the ground. I broke down in tears surveying the aftermath. All my hard work destroyed in minutes by their careless disregard. I'd had enough of their abuse. These people had no respect for me or my home. I wanted them gone for good. After consulting a lawyer, I discovered I had solid grounds to sue them for the destruction of my property. My lawsuit demanded they pay for repairs plus extra damages for emotional distress. The court date arrived and the judge heard clear evidence of their negligence. Photos showed the location of the RV on my land. Multiple police reports backed up my claims of noise and vandalism issues, and the repair estimates proved just how expensive fixing their mess would be. The judge ruled entirely in my favor. The family was ordered to pay me over $5,000 in repairs and compensation. Of course, people like them never have that kind of money, but I was still satisfied knowing I I'd made them face some much-deserved consequences. In the end, though, it wasn't enough to make me want to stay. Every time I looked out my window at the RV next door, all I felt was rage and stress. Those people had ruined the tranquility of my home. The place I had once found so peaceful now filled me with anxiety. So I made the difficult choice to sell my house and move far away from those neighbors. Starting over in a new place wasn't easy, but it was worth it. Now I can sit on my porch in the evenings and enjoy the sounds of nature, not blaring music and shouting matches. My yard is my own again, not subject to vandalism and destruction. The neighbors here are friendly and respectful, exchanging nothing more than smiles and waves. I hate that I was forced out of a home I loved so much, but sometimes you have to let go of the past to make way for a happier future. I got my revenge in court, yet those people still won in the end. At least I can find comfort knowing karma will catch up to them eventually. For now, I'm building a better life in a peaceful place, free of RVs, litterbugs, and entitled jerks. The next one is a petty revenge story. This happened yesterday at my new next-door neighbor's townhouse. He bought the house a few weeks ago, and the movers came to unload the truck with his household stuff and move him in. A huge truck pulled into the driveway in front of his garage. When they opened up the back of the truck and looked at what was there, they told him that he needed to pay an additional $400 because of how much stuff he had, and that it would take 2 more hours to unload. He protested, but they threatened to leave and he could take it up with the moving company. They had him over a barrel and took the credit card payment. The movers asked him to open the garage door so they could take everything into the townhouse because the front door off to the side had about a dozen steps. There was a car in the garage and they asked him to remove it. He did. The truck pulled up and in about an hour, everything was unloaded and inside. But he had pulled the car in behind the truck, effectively preventing it from driving out. When they asked him to move it, he told them that his wife had the keys and was out shopping. She would be back in a couple hours, since they had told him and her that they needed a couple extra hours to unload. When they pushed back, he told them that he was paying for 2 more hours of their time. It really didn't matter. She walked out the front door 2 houses later and moved her car till they could back out and leave. The next one is a malicious compliance story. I work at a hotel, I'm on the graveyard shift, and we have a continental breakfast from 6 to 9, and my shift ends at 7, so I'm in charge of setting up the breakfast. It's not a big deal, it's a smallish hotel and a small breakfast, but we do have waffles and a couple of waffle makers. Basically, guests come in, they get their batter out of a dispenser and make their waffles so they're fresh and hot. We have 2 seasons where I live, winter and construction season, and we get work crews that stay at the hotel on the boss's dime and then go out for whatever job they're working on, and we very frequently get this one crew of guys. They're great guys, they're polite, and they don't leave the breakfast room a mess, but their shifts start super early in the morning. We also get hunters who are in and out before 6, so I usually have everything set up by 5:30 for them. I say usually because I'm only human, sometimes I'm running late, it happens, but I'm never more than 5 minutes after 6. The workers and the hunters are super chill about it, they get it, and don't complain about waiting a couple of extra minutes. I also feel the need to add that the foreman is amongst them, so he's eating when they are. So, one day I'm running a little late. I got caught up with what I was doing and kinda lost track of time, so I was rushing to get everything set up while the guys are patiently waiting in the lobby. In enters Karen, who sees the time, sees the breakfast isn't ready, and decides to yell at me for it, saying that the sign says breakfast is from 6, 9, and should be started exactly at 6. I tried to keep working while talking to her so I could get the breakfast ready, but she decided that was rude, so I had to stop what I was doing and stand there with her yelling at me until she ran out of breath and I could finish setting up. Karen complains to the manager. I get a verbal warning that I have to have breakfast open by 6, as I was about 15 minutes behind because Karen was yelling at me when I would have been less than 4 if she'd let me ducking finish. Well, Karen was a stayover, and she was in the next day before 6. The manager refunded part of her stay under guest satisfaction, and I think she was hoping to find me doing something wrong so she could get another refund, but I was on my game and had everything set up by 5:30 like usual. She came in before the workers and saw me sitting at the front desk and sneered about me being lazy when I should be setting up breakfast. I told her the breakfast was already ready to go as the construction workers are entering, but I stand and walk over to block the doorway to the breakfast room and told them that I couldn't let them in because the manager said I had to start the breakfast at exactly 6 o'clock, so I couldn't let them back until then. And as I'm saying this, I'm looking directly at Karen. Slowly heads turn and Karen goes red and mutters something about coming back later and leaves, so I let the guys back. They said it was funny, and like I said, the workers have had to wait a little after 6 before with no problem, and the foreman was there. To be clear, if I thought this stunt was going to cost them their breakfast, I never would have done it. But I knew that wasn't going to be a problem. I didn't see Karen again, so either she didn't come back or she returned after I left. But either way, I didn't hear another word from the manager about it. You want your breakfast at 6? You're going to get your breakfast at 6. The next one is an entitled people story. For context, he is the youngest son in the family, and my parents tend to brush off whatever he does with the excuse of "we'll replace it." However, my dad has stopped enabling that behavior for a couple of years. He moved in with his family to my parents' home after failing to make it big in Australia. My siblings forced him to come back after finding out he demanded $10,000 from our mother, who is retired and has had a stroke. It is a 5-room flat, so my sister was kicked out of her room and had to occupy the slightly smaller study room until they moved out earlier this April. My husband, our baby, and I are currently staying with my parents while waiting for our house to finish being built. They stayed about a year plus, and it was a nightmare with them over. In that span of time, they complained about my son, who either needed to be soothed back to sleep or just refused to sleep while they were putting their newborn to sleep. I do feel guilty about that. Then, they attempted to kick me, my husband, and son out of the house when the 2 boys had COVID, which only lasted a day for them. I tried to rationalize it since they have 2 kids. One was a year old and the other about 2 or 3 months. This pissed off the eldest, who came down to mediate because I was already stressed out about the situation, and my dad told me, "No, you're not going anywhere. He has no right to do that." Besides, we used my parents' bathroom to shower my son or when we needed to use the toilet and rarely went out. It needs to be known as well that we had nowhere else to go. We could not go to my in-laws' place because my father-in-law, a stroke patient, just got back home from the ICU due to COVID, so I thought we were done with that. No, there is more. When their son had HMFD, their safest bet was to get their daughter out of the house. So that was a fun week of being cooped up in the room again, because not only did they allow their son to run around the house touching everything, including my son's walker, but they also could not be bothered to disinfect it. Although I was told it only spreads via saliva, it is safer to be cautious. First-time mom with a then 6-month-old and all that. That is fine with all those, right? It could not get any worse than that, right? You thought wrong. My younger brother throws a hissy fit whenever people touch his things without his permission, his wife especially. It got to the point that they started labeling everything that is theirs in the fridge, like no problem. But the hygiene, oh my god, the number of times they would treat this house like they own it. They refused to clean up after themselves, refused to clear the stove after they were done cooking. Let me tell you, the amount of mold, wriggling white maggots we would find in their leftover pastas. They demand my younger sister cook extra for their kid to eat and then get upset when she makes the wrong kind of pasta. Only they can scold their son when he does something wrong, and so on. But God forbid we try and pull that kind of behavior on them. And they go complaining behind our backs to mom and dad or to one of the other in-laws who let us know on the tea. Also, my nephew borrowed my brother's bag and it got washed because it is dirty. They moved out early April and the rest of us silently cheered, especially my husband. God, he hated them, but that is beside the point. A few days ago, I bought a whole packet of Want milk drinks. I bought 2 packets, or 8 cartons, of those delicious, sweet milk. I got the white version, less sweet, for my younger sister. She took one, the red one, and I told her that hers is the white ones, but if she wanted the red version, to at least ask me beforehand, since I wanted to bring the rest to work. I forgot to bring it on a Friday, so I was like, okay, I will bring it on Saturday. Come Saturday, I forgot about it again. But that is fine. We chill. I will bring it on Monday. It is still inside the fridge last I checked anyway. Come Sunday, I went out to an open house my friend was hosting. I did not check the fridge. Today, I took medical leave because my body is aching and I have been vomiting the past couple of days. I opened the fridge to take a carton out and you guessed it, they were missing. So, of course, the first person I thought of was my younger sister. I went after her on the phone and she swore after the last time I told her not to touch my things without my permission. She only took her white wants. So I went to my mom and asked her if anyone had taken them. We had guests over with kids on Saturday evening. She asked me to describe them, and when I did, her eyes widened and I heard her whisper, "I thought your younger sister bought them," which is like the worst excuse you could come up with, and it still does not excuse anyone taking them without permission, by the way. So I asked what she meant, and she said that my younger brother took them. When? When did he come back? And why? Sorry, still extremely salty about that. He does not even live here anymore. If he took one single carton, hey, I am fine with that. But he took all remaining 5. I think the best part was my mom, who said they, my parents, would buy it for me. And I was like, the logic in that, I want to know why that little sucker did that when he had the audacity to get upset when someone touches his items. So I blasted him on our WhatsApp group. My dad says he will replace it, and to start writing our names on the stuff we bought just to be safe. I replied back with, I can replace it on my own. I just wanted to know why he would do that without asking who it belongs to and if it was okay to take it. You do not see me waltzing into his home grabbing whatever we want. He does not even live with us anymore. Also, I might as well leave the house and rent a place instead if it means a 100% guarantee no one is going to take my things without telling me. While it is heavily cheaper to stay with my parents, I can choose to rent someplace else. My mom just refuses to let me do such a thing because I am also her eldest daughter and baby. But that is another story for another time. My eldest brother told me to quit it, messaged me directly saying the youngest of the brothers is the golden child and it is to be expected. I told him, I am not going to let our parents pull that behavior on me. I am not going to let them enable him. He is not the only one who knows how to throw a tantrum. This was spoken in the heat of the moment. I will not throw a tantrum, but I am not going to tolerate my parents enabling him further. I would have just kept quiet if my dad had just stopped at, we will investigate it. But the moment he mentioned replace, I lost all my patience. Everything is quiet as of now. No replies from my younger brother or his wife, or my parents too. I am simmering still, but not as angry. I will buy the drinks again if they still have them on sale later. I have always read about entitled siblings/family, but never really thought of my younger brother as one until he got married. Also, I am aware that I am an a-hole too. I am just sick of my mother always defending his actions or enabling it. Once my mom told my younger brother jokingly to slap our youngest. After the third slap and humiliating her, did our mom tell him to stop. She ran away from home for 3 days. I wonder why. This is an Asian household. I do not get why my younger brother is getting favored because our youngest, sister, is the most successful out of all of us. I am extremely petty. That is why my younger sister always listens to my warnings. The last time she did not listen to me to stop using my makeup remover when she already has one, I went and used up all of hers. Since then, she has always heeded my warnings and would ask my permission in advance if she needs to borrow or use something of mine. I have gotten into a scuffle with my youngest brother as well, but I am pretty sure he has got nothing inside that head of his because he has learned nothing. The next one is an entitled parent story. I moved out of my parents' house when I was 18 to go to college. Since then, I've been living on my own, with very minimal financial support from them. I covered all the costs of college on my own. They pay for my phone bill and they own my car, but otherwise I am totally financially independent. I now have a full-time job and live across the country, and yet they still treat me like a child. I thought it had gotten better. They came to visit last month and they were acting so laid back I almost could not believe it. My dad, who screamed at me on my 21st birthday for ordering one single margarita, drank with me. I thought my luck had finally turned and they were calming down. I now think it might have been a freak occurrence. My long-distance boyfriend is planning to visit this weekend. It's a new relationship, but we've been best friends for years, so I know him very well. I mentioned to my mother that he wanted to come visit, and she made a comment about him getting a hotel. Now, my parents are very conservative, religious, and old-fashioned. However, to expect me to ask my boyfriend to stay in a hotel when he's flying across the country to see me, that's insane. I did not want it to come to a point of me needing to cut contact with them. But I'm wondering if that might actually be the best option. It's an extreme choice, but I refuse to continue living in fear. I can't do that anymore. All I want is for them to treat me like the adult I am. I'll be 25 in a few months. There is no excuse at this point. I'm so fed up and exhausted, and honestly, I am tired of having panic attacks and crying over it. If you've got advice, I'd love to hear it. Thank you for watching. I would really appreciate it if you could like the video and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already.